Okay folks, let's get started. In this video topic, I'm going to preview the major subtypes of homicide. The next few reading units are going to show the major criminal law doctrines at work in the homicide context. So think of this video as a quick review of the menu before you start the meal. Oh, that's not such a good metaphor when our cases leave so many bodies lying around. Well, let's move on in. We start at the top of the scale. All of the homicide charges involve the same criminal act causing the death of a person. The variety among different levels of homicide is going to involve different culpability levels. So murder is the most serious subtype of homicide. Start with quintessential murder, right in the middle of the page here. First degree murder based on malice aforethought. That's the term of art, malice aforethought. In the poetry of the common law, that's a way of saying that the killer acted first with a purpose to kill, and second, with premeditation. That premeditation, that's a chance to stop, even if only briefly, to confirm an initial purpose to kill. Now, felony murder is another option for this middle tier. It's a strange doctrinal creature. It allows murder without the intent to kill. If you commit certain dangerous felonies, say armed robbery, and somebody dies as a result, then we call it first degree murder, felony murder. Now look up above. To capital murder. Aggravating factors are necessary here, so you not only have to have the classic first degree murder, intent to kill plus premeditation, but you also have to have one of these aggravating circumstances like the use of torture in the killing, or killing for hire, or the catch-all category, a murder that is especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel. That's the classic language you'll see in death penalty statutes where they exist. The basic idea here is to sort out the very worst murders from the others and put them up at a higher level. Now look down below. Second degree murder is punished less severely, and it's based on less severe forms of culpability. So you can have intent to kill or intent to inflict grievous bodily injury. It might even be based on some extreme form of recklessness like depraved heart murder, or my personal favorite, the abandoned and malignant heart theory. And you can also have second degree felony murder. Now, in a tier below all of the murders, we can talk about manslaughter. And within this second level of homicides, the first possibility would be voluntary manslaughter. This happens if you've got some intentional killing, but it happens after a provocation and what we call, during what we call a heat of passion. It might also happen if you believe that you are acting in self-defense appropriately, but it turns out that was an unreasonable set of assumptions that you make. It was imperfect self-defense. Involuntary manslaughter is also a possibility. And for involuntary manslaughter, very often it's based on some form of recklessness that causes the death of another human being. In some states, it might be negligence-based killing, at least for gross negligence, the criminal negligence sense. In other states, it might be called, instead of involuntary manslaughter, we might just call that negligent homicide. So you're going to see a good bit of variety between states here. There's something called misdemeanor manslaughter, where if the underlying crime is a misdemeanor and it causes a death, it might lead to manslaughter charges. And then many states have a specialized form of statutes for the killings that drivers cause in their improper operation of their vehicles, typically punished less severely even than involuntary manslaughter. So that gives us the full criminal law menu, but then there are other killings out there that really aren't crimes. So you might have caused a death, you might have been negligence in the ordinary negligence sense, but not grossly negligent, so therefore it falls out of the criminal system, and yet there might be a wrongful death tort suit that you would be facing as the cause of the death. And then there are other killings that we just say there is no legal consequence here. This is just an unfortunate incident, but there was no negligence. There was nothing higher than that in culpability. There's no crime and possibly even no tort, no legal event at all. Now, some pieces of this structure are pretty rational and orderly. purposeful and knowing killings go up at the top of the scale. They're punished most severely. And then the reckless killings go into the middle of the scale. The negligent killings will either go also into that middle of the scale at involuntary manslaughter, or they may slip down into a standalone category for negligent homicide in some states. But other parts of this structure built up over the centuries are just completely helter-skelter. Oh, that's another unfortunate phrase for a homicide video, isn't it? Well, on we go. Some purposeful killings get sent down to manslaughter because they were carried out in the heat of passion. Some reckless killings get sent up because we say that they show an extreme indifference to the value of human life, or an abandoned and malignant heart, or a depraved heart, and so forth. But they're basically reckless-based killings, and yet they're punished at the top of the scale. And then there's our old friend felony murder, and that can draw in all different levels of culpability as to death. So someone could be reckless as to death, they could be negligent as to the death that they're causing, they could even be blameless as to death for felony murder purposes. So that's our preview of the charges, how they relate to the different levels of culpability. It's a whirlwind tour, but now we're going to back up over our discussion over the next few class sessions and appreciate some of the details of the particular stops on the tour. So let's jump on in.